Okay, without further ado then, I will get started. Right now, everyone is in listen-only mode. At the end of the webinar, I will unmute everyone and allow for questions. So if you do have a question while I am going through this, at any time, just jot down your question and we will take care of all those at the end. All right. This district tournament host manual we will send out to all the district representatives as well as the tournament directors if that person happens to be different from the district representative. The biggest point I want to make before we begin is that this is not going to be a meticulous review. As you can see on my screen, there are 42 pages in this host manual, as well as a need to get to know the coach's resource guide for Unified Tennis, which every coach has, every district representative has. Sometimes we have district tournament directors who are not themselves unified coaches, so they do need a little bit of time to review all this on their own. So just so you know, we'll be going through just the biggest and most important parts. As you can see from this page, our contact information has all been updated. This is actually more up to date than what is in the coach's resource guide. We have, since the sending of that, we've added Mark Sunkel as our IUS Tennis Assistant Chair. He's out of Frederick County. And we also have regional sports directors in all of the regions that we're serving this year. So just in case you need to reach out to anyone, everybody's contact information is within this host manual. All right, so section 1 is about ceremonies, both opening and closing. We have actually provided for you the entire, from start to finish, everything to how many roles you need to fill, to the opening script. I'll let you review this on your own, but we really take pride in the ceremonies aspect of a Special Olympics event. So definitely take a look at this, see all of the things that you have to review. Be sure you give, if you have a master's or a mistress of ceremonies, to fill in the script for them. As you can see, it says be sure to write in the appropriate district number. See your map below. I think everybody by now knows their district numbers, but just in case you need a review, here it is. Anyway, your opening ceremony should have an anthem. If your school has a color guard, we definitely encourage you to book that. You'll need an athlete and a partner to do the athlete partner oath. You'll need whoever is your on-site official to give the official's oath, and then if you could pre-select a coach to do the coach's oath. And then your MC will read this script.
Hi everyone, this is Melissa. The one thing I would add is that Special Olympics is recognized by the International Olympic Committee. So we are obligated to have certain aspects of a competition in every competition. So that would include the opening ceremony. So we really appreciate you. The culminating events for 2/3 of our student athletes. Only about 1/3 will advance to the state tournament. So this is the grand finale, the last shebang. So really try to make it special, do your due diligence, and securing those special entities like a color guard, an anthemist, so on and so forth, to really set the tone, like I said, and make it a special event from the start. Thank you, Allie.
Oh, thanks, Melissa. Also, you'll note at the end of the script, there are guidelines for the award ceremony. This is another area where I ask you to make it really special. One of the things that we point out is that medals, are awarded for 1st through 3rd place, and then ribbons for all other places. Coaches do not receive awards, and we also don't send awards home with random people. Sometimes people ask, I know it seems odd, but if a player is ill or injured, they certainly can receive an award for the place of the finish of their team. Because these tournaments are unified competitions, unified medals and ribbons will be presented, and we'll talk to you later about how you'll obtain all of those. This page and following are procedures for the award ceremony. Of note is that if you have available, and if you can get available, any law enforcement, it is a great idea to have them. It's actually preferred that you have them present the awards. If not law enforcement, then any sort of VIP or special person, maybe a director of athletics might, for your district or your county, superintendent of schools, anyone there who might be someone of an important nature that sort of elevates the award ceremony as well, and they can actually be the ones that hand out the awards.
The one thing I'll add there, I'm sorry, this is Melissa again.
Go ahead.
Special Olympics has a global relationship with all law enforcement. So please, when Allie references having law enforcement out to present the awards, it's not a paid role. It's not an added stipend position as you would have security at your varsity, junior varsity events. So if you want to contact your local state police barracks, your local police department, so on and so forth, and just state that it is, we're happy to actually make that request on your behalf and get those people out there, so that's fine too. But if you have someone in mind that you have a relationship with, we'll certainly look for you to do that as well. So
definitely.
But yeah, it shouldn't be a paid entity. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Melissa. Okay. Also of note on this page that's on the screen, you'll see there are some notes, obviously pause for athletes to wave and pictures to be taken and that sort of thing. Just note that some districts may have one division, some districts might have as many as 4. So you'll actually do these ceremonies awarding medals for each division. So you make sure you account for that and line everybody up according to division. Okay, tournament management. So this is for actual logistics, operations of your day. Attendees are not to be charged for admission, parking fees, or any like fees to be able to come and observe the tournament. No air horns or artificial noisemakers, etc. The national anthem shall be played or sung. Color guard, as we talked about. Neutrality. I want to talk about that for a second. Host institutions should keep in mind that a district tournament is not a home event. So neutrality is very important. Therefore, such items as host institutional signage should not be used to create a home atmosphere. And we will, I believe we always send Special Olympics banners and things like that so that you can create that neutrality at your location. Obviously, no alcoholic beverages or tobacco use. That is prohibited in all Maryland public school campuses. The Americans with Disabilities Act, which went into effect in 1992, requires that public establishments offer equal access and services to people who are physically and mentally disabled. Special Olympics Maryland rely on the host to confirm compliance with the act by the host competition sites. Concessions can definitely be offered. We encourage that if you're able to do so. Of course, prices shall be no higher than similar events. And it's a great idea to have directional signages posted in all areas so that participants and spectators alike can find where to go. Competition management, section 3 here. Gold medalist allocation. So as stated in the resource guide, each school system is assigned to a district. Each district will receive an allocation of teams, gold medalists, who will advance to the state tournament in Towson on November 1st. These allocations are proportionate to the total number of teams training statewide. It does change year to year, and it is dependent on how many, like I said, how many teams are registered, and we're still actually trying to confirm that, as there are a number of postseason registrations that have not been turned in yet statewide. So this is usually a question: how many allocations, how many divisions? Those postseason registrations for any of our district representatives that are on the call, those postseason registrations must be turned in ASAP so that we can figure that out. Coaches meeting, you should conduct a brief coaches meeting on site prior to the opening ceremony. That's later in the host manual. Roster consistency here in the middle of the page. The playing roster has to be consistent with the roster as it appears on the postseason registration. However, of course, scratches are permitted. In the instance of a scratch, a coach can substitute a player so that the match can still be played, so that the partner or the athlete can actually get a match in and their opponents may play. However, that is strictly an exhibition match. And the team who substituted will forfeit. That will be placed on the scoring as a forfeit. Ideally, one team division will be established for each gold medalist allocation. However, if the number of competing teams is too few to allow for viable competition using this format, the tournament director and Special Olympics Maryland representatives may determine an alternative advancement criteria, for example, allowing silver medalists to advance. That has to be approved by myself and Mark. And we'll know more if that needs to happen once, again, those postseason registrations are turned in and we have determined the size of each district and their medal allocations to advance to the state tournament. Team scoring, which is covered in Supplement B. 1 point is awarded to a team for each victorious doubles match. This follows interscholastic high school tennis scoring rules. For individual skills competition, the participant who scores the highest score will earn 1 point for his or her team. Note, match play, unified tennis offers short court with the red ball and full court with orange, green, and yellow. The red, orange, and green balls have varied compressions, therefore are slower on the court. Individual skills competition that we offer for players who are unable to play match play in a doubles tennis team. So the individual skills competition player is paired with a teammate who will act as a ball feeder when competing in the ISC events. Also note in the coach's resource guide, we explicitly state that a coach can be a ball feeder if necessary, because we do not want any players to be penalized for someone's lack of tossing skills or nerves on the court, which does happen very often. And also, if at any time the ball feeder is struggling to give good tosses to the athlete, a coach can step in or a coach's designee during that time. So that's there's more details about that in the coach's resource guide, which is another reason why it's important to review that prior to the competition. Time limits. Each tournament is subject to particular time restrictions or space restraints. So the tournament directors should work cooperatively with myself and Mark to create a competition schedule which best suits set time and space accommodations. A time limit should be applied to each match. If a match is not complete by the predetermined time limit, the winner of the current set will be determined by the team who has won the most number of games. If the sets are then equal at 1-1, a 10-point tiebreak game will ensue. The winner of the 10-point tiebreak game will win the match. The team tiebreak procedure. If there is a tie with the final team division's results, this is how we will break the tie. First by the number of sets lost, then by the number of games lost. Non-scoring matches will not be considered in this process. Coaching, there's no coaching from the courts. Those have to be cleared. You may coach from the fenced area during changeovers only. That's also consistent with the coach's resource guide. Sports information there in the center of the page. The tournament director, as I said twice now, should review the coach's resource guide for a complete overview of all of our rules, but we are directing your attention to page 10 about line calls, pages 12 through 14 for the principle of meaningful involvement, and for pages 17 through 20, the implementation of the individual skills competition. This is, I have to give a special plug for the individual skills competition. It is very often overlooked, and so it's really important that you review that ahead of time so the student athletes can get right on and off the court and finish their competition. You must designate a control center, which has to be equipped with at least 2 long tables and preferably, if possible, covered by a tent. That should serve as team check-in and score reporting. The control center must have a PA system in order to make general announcements and to stage student athletes prior to accessing the courts. The tournament director and Special Olympics Maryland site representative shall determine an orderly and efficient way of receiving, tabulating, and posting match results and overall scoring. I'm just going to make a note right here that you'll notice that the procedures here seem pretty strict and standardized, and that's really so that we can, as Melissa pointed out, you know, this is the final competition for some student athletes who are not going to progress to the state level. So we really want to make sure that the integrity of the competition is maintained. Of course, we understand that you might have to adjust as necessary, given your time, your space, or the resources at the location that you're using. But you know, this is your tournament, so this is you should own all of the aspects of implementing these guidelines and rules. Please keep all of your score sheets and your brackets, your schedule with results, all of that, because we do review those things back at Special Olympics. Scratches should be reported when the head coach arrives. If players are absent, alternates are not allowed. Of course, we already reviewed that you can substitute a player, but that match is still forfeited points-wise and played for exhibition. Protests must be filed within 15 minutes of the completion of a match. A misinterpretation of a rule may be protested, but not a judgment call. Protests are to be submitted in writing to the control tent. A sports rules committee will review the protest on site and deliver a decision. The sports rules committee shall be determined prior to opening ceremony and consists of 2 coaches and the tournament director or the Special Olympics Maryland site representative. If possible, include 1 student athlete. Parties are expected to recuse themselves if their affiliate school is involved in the protest or competition under protest. Section 4, critical incident response and inclement weather plan. The host institution procedures for circumstances requiring emergency evacuation of the competition site or interruption will be utilized. The Special Olympics Maryland site representative, tournament director, and other host institution staff shall review these procedures and protocols prior to the tournament. We ask that if under the threat of inclement weather, the decision to postpone the competition, please have that occur at least 5 hours prior to the opening ceremony start time. Under the discretion of the tournament director and the Special Olympics Maryland site representative, the decision could always be made sooner. The tournament director and the Special Olympics Maryland site representative should work together to properly communicate the postponement via email. This includes communications regarding threats of postponement. So giving people a heads up whenever possible. Okay. District tennis tournament checklist. This is for tournament directors. This is just something to help you keep track of all of the things that have to be done prior to and day of the tournament. Roster verification. The playing roster, as we said, must be consistent with the roster as it appears on the 2017 Unified Tennis postseason tournament registration. Images below must be on hand to verify each team's playing roster. Just a note, I myself am reviewing these postseason registrations, and also possibly Mark Sunkel, our assistant chair, we will give to you all of the registrations for each school participating at a particular district tournament in a final Excel file that you can use to schedule from. So coaches should have their postseason registration form so that you can always verify if there's an issue. And now we're actually just into the supplement of the host manual. Supplement A is just a sample timeline of how to put the tournament together before opening ceremonies and competition beginning. Supplement B is about tournament scheduling. So we do expect that tournament directors are going to schedule their own competition. This supplement was actually created by our previous tennis chair, Kevin Reynolds, who had a very nice system for scheduling a unified tennis tournament. If you read through this, and I'll click through it in a second, and are thinking that it's overwhelming and maybe difficult, you can reach out to myself, to Mark, to Melissa, myself first, so that we don't bog others down, and we can help you work through the problem. If you think you are going to need a lot of help scheduling, as in you're going to need someone to do it with you, we need to know that ASAP. I would say by end of business day, no later than Monday, October 2nd, preferably tomorrow, however. Again, I must re-emphasize for our district representatives that I must have your postseason registration form so that we can get these registrations out to the tournament directors for scheduling purposes. So I'm not going to go through this section line by line. I think it's better to have the tournament director and the district representatives read through this. And then if you have any questions, to reach out to me, okay? We do have flights or team division. Usually there's at least 2. Sometimes there's only 1. Sometimes there's as many as 4 team divisions, depending on the size of the district and how many are advancing to the state meet from each district. Here are some best practices for scheduling your matches. There's also some best practices. Something that Kevin did was he would color code the schools on the final match schedule so that coaches could easily find their doubles teams that were playing. Sometimes a coach might have 2 or 3 matches going on at once in one flight, and then none for the next, and then another 2 or 3. So it helps coaches to keep everything straight. I also want to point out scoring opportunities. Each team within each flight must have the same number of scoring opportunities. Each match counts as a scoring opportunity. If a team has players competing in the individual skills, the team has an additional scoring opportunity. However, regardless of the number of teams competing in individual skills, the team only has 1 additional scoring opportunity. So, for example, Clear Spring 1 has 3 players competing in individual skills. Therefore, Clear Spring 1 has 1 additional scoring opportunity. If teams in the same flight have varying scoring opportunities, randomly designate matches as exhibition, thus equalizing the scoring opportunities. So that may require designating a match as exhibition for a specific team, leaving the match as a scoring opportunity for the opponent. So, for example, Team A still needs a scoring opportunity. Team B already has all of their scoring opportunities. Team A and B will play a match. Team B is not eligible to score a team point. However, if they are victorious over Team A, then Team A does not earn their team points. So those matches are still important. Some tournament best practices once you have scheduled is to pre-write and prepare the score sheets in advance of the tournament. You'll see supplement 1 below. Keep all paperwork neat and orderly, obviously. Tabulate team points as the match results are received. Match results and the corresponding team scores need to be posted and clearly displayed for coaches and spectators. Tabulate the number of sets lost and the number of games lost. FYI, if there is a tie with the final team division results, break the tie first by the number of sets lost, as we said earlier. If the teams are still tied after considering the number of sets lost, the second tiebreak criteria is the number of games lost. Be certain that the players check in at the start and end of every match. The scorekeeper should escort the players and the scorecard. I can't emphasize this enough. Your procedures for staging should be to call the match that needs to go onto the court. They should meet their scorekeeper at the control tent where they will be handed the scorecard, and then the scorekeeper should escort both doubles teams onto the court to play and then walk them back to the control tent afterwards. Here is an example of the score sheet. The highlighted portions are what you should fill in before competition. This scorecard is available both in PDF and in Microsoft Word. Some people like to actually type in those highlighted parts, and that is just fine with us. So you can, if that makes it easier for you to do so, we will provide both formats of the score sheet. Supplement 2, this is an example of a match schedule. This is, if you'll see the flight is listed next to the match number. Clearly shown are the ratings for both doubles teams and whether it is full or short court and what type of ball they're using. You'll then use this match schedule to tabulate the score as you go on. So this would be your master schedule. And all the coaches should also receive a copy of this prior to competition so they can have an idea of when their student athletes will play. You'll see at the end there are several exhibition matches. We do want to encourage participation even when a team might not be eligible to advance onto the state meet due to maybe the size of their roster. So those exhibition matches are all put on the end of the tournament. The same with, both doubles teams that are playing together scratch the day of, but you have two teams that you can put into play against each other. Those will get shuffled to the end of the day. And just note for time constraints, if you're losing the light, the sun's starting to set, those exhibition matches may or may not be played, but every effort is made to play them so that everybody has a chance to get on the court at least once in the case of exhibition, but of course twice in the case of scoring doubles teams. This is an example of the team scoring display. So this can be created in Excel. We'll provide you a template for that. It's a good idea to have this printed and actually magnified if possible, and displayed somewhere central so that teams can keep up with their score throughout the tournament. And then this is just an example of a team scoring display. Again, this is a screenshot from our state tournament 2 years ago. And you can review that. You can see some scoring notes at the bottom that just helps to keep things straight as far as when there might be an unscoring or a non-scoring match or a non-scoring doubles team, etc. Supplement C is straight from the Coach's Resource Guide, which is the individual skills tennis competition. Again, please review these ahead of time, run through them if they seem confusing, and of course, always reach out to us for questions. This is the score sheet for the individual skills competition scorecard. The rules in the previous pages explain how a score is, how a point or 5 points or 10 points are achieved. And then, of course, the winner of the individual skills competition scores 1 team point for their team. That is the end of the presentation of the host manual. Before I open it up for questions, I just, again, want to reiterate that if you feel that you're going to need help with scheduling of your tournament, from myself or Mark, our assistant chair, or somebody else from Special Olympics, we need to know that very soon, end of business day Monday if possible. And again, please get your post-season registrations in if you have not, so that we can get to scoring, get to reviewing those. And I do want to thank those who have turned theirs in already. If you know you've turned them in and I haven't gotten back to you yet, I promise my response is on its way. We will follow up this webinar by tomorrow afternoon. We'll have the recording of this presentation as well as the host manual itself, some hosting reminders, and those sorts of things. And I just want to emphasize that we are here to help, but also this is your tournament, and we want you to really feel a sense of ownership over it, and to put any special touches on it that you feel, or adjusting it as you need, but it's really in your hands. So I am going to do my best to unmute the line if I can figure out how to do that.
Allie, while you look at that, I'm going to jump in on a couple things if I could. Just a couple points of reinforcement for everyone. We can't stress enough that we really need to uphold the rules of competition. So an analogy would be, a football, high-profile sport like that, you wouldn't adjust the end zone dimensions or something like that. So we don't want to see any adjustments on the fly or anything like that. So please become familiar with the coach's resource guide. We'll send that out to everyone as a follow-up as well, especially the sightings that are noted in the host manual as well. Those are really the key entities to make sure we're following through with. As well, please make sure to think about who you have available, especially human resources. So activate your varsity tennis coaches, your JV tennis coaches, your varsity and junior varsity teams, your groups who might look for service opportunities like the National Honor Society. Look for people who know tennis, and you can really utilize them to help make this a great sport. I personally do not know tennis all that well, and have come to learn about it, but these are people who really, it's in their wheelhouse, so let's put them to best use. As well, a close piggyback on that, regarding the stipends, Allie, if you could scroll up to, I believe it's the third page or so, the intro, referencing stipends. It's actually page 3 in the introduction. So the latter part of that goes into the tournament director and your responsibilities as the tournament director. And we do allocate what I understand to be the equivalent of the MPSSAA tournament stipend of $75 for tournament directors, as well as appointing an additional person. That doesn't hold true for persons who this is within their realm of their responsibilities. So unfortunately, persons like district reps, if you're serving as a tournament director, you would not be privy to that. That's rolled into the stipend you receive from Special Olympics. Likewise, athletics directors, it's within their realm of responsibility, so they're not eligible for that stipend. So hopefully everyone will step up if it's in their realm of responsibilities. All that to say, if you're not an athletics director or district rep, we can afford you the $75 stipend, and then you can have the liberty to appoint one other person. So that additional person, some common roles would be the assistant tournament director, naturally, to assist with anything and everything. And that person may be designated to oversee, for example, ceremonies. And then Allie did a great job of covering the individual skills competition. So maybe giving them certain pieces to really study and become masters of, to make sure that that's carried out to a T, and it's carried out to the letter of the rules. With that, just a quick note as well, relevant to the rules and scheduling. So scheduling individual skills competitions. So these are for student athletes who have rated their skill set is low, in that they will, as Allie referenced, complete a series of skills with a ball feeder, so they're not to the point where they can be playing rally tennis, if you will. So that may not be an event that will be at every district. It's few and far between, but you do need to be prepared to execute that event. You may have as few as one student athlete competing, and that's just fine. You could have as many. We've seen close to 10 or so. So it might not be. As soon as we receive all of the postseason registrations and vet those, we'll be able to give you some added information on that. Allie also made reference to please getting your postseason registrations in. I want to clarify who's responsible for that. So the district representatives are collecting the postseason registrations from the coaches. So those of you who do not serve as a district representative, you have no responsibility in that regard. So please relieve yourselves. Don't think that you're to go out with these registrations from the coaches. We will receive them through our office, our team. We will vet them, clarify any clerical errors, mismatching, so on and so forth. A number of things could go wrong with that, unfortunately. We'll get those termed up and cleaned up nicely for you to then take a look at and start the scheduling process. That leads me into my next point. If you are not comfortable with scheduling, again, tennis is a very difficult sport to learn, and if you don't know it well, it may not be within your wheelhouse to take on the scheduling piece. So just be transparent with us. Let us know. Be candid about what you think is a possibility with scheduling. If it's not something that you feel like you can do your due diligence and handle thoroughly and well, we will gladly take on that responsibility because we do want to get it right. It's very important. So we don't want to leave that up to subject to any issues or what have you. With that, just a couple notes in that if you have resources available to you to print out the schedules once they are set, print out the schedules on large poster size or even 11 by 17 paper. That always serves quite well in the administration of the tournament so teams can follow along in the scoring process. You know, it's not an easy sport to track because we don't have the digital scoreboard and that sort of thing. So we want to make sure old tally sheets are just fine, but we want to see if we can get those in a poster size if at all possible. With that, my last note I wanted to share with everyone is to make sure when you're two things, that you have someone designated to brief all of the scorers who will be scoring on at each court. So we do not leave it to the student athletes to maintain their own scores, as is the case with varsity and junior varsity. We have an independent scorer with a clipboard, score sheet, all of that. So we would need someone to brief those scores before play starts. As well, please work out a systematic means or way of receiving the results. So the score sheets, as Allie referenced, receiving those in, confirming the winner, confirming the actual score because games lost Those sorts of things will all be tabulated in order to break any ties at the end. And then as well, a means to confirm the winner, confirm the score right there at the control center desk. And believe it or not, we do have times when they may not complete the match. Unbeknownst to them, they thought they completed it. The score's not right, so you may need to send them back out to the court. That's not unprecedented, so keep that in mind. We'll call the players back over, send them back out, and have them finish the match. Likewise, please do post the score or tally the score as soon as possible so that you're keeping up with the tabulation ongoing. So it's not something that you have to catch up on, or you're perhaps duplicating your record and such. So with that, I'll pause and leave it to you, Allie, to open up the phone lines for any questions.
Okay. I am able, some of you are self-muted. I am unmuting you right now. So if you have a question, go ahead and unmute yourself. And you may, oh, wait, I just muted people. Hang on. Okay. I think everyone is unmuted by me. So if you would like to ask a question, you can unmute yourself if you've done that manually on your phone and go ahead and ask it. Okay. So hope I did that right. I heard a few people go ahead and self-mute. So I'm assuming if there are no questions, we can go ahead and finish this up. And then, of course, if something comes to mind, you can always reach out to us via email. And again, this has been recorded, and we will be sending it out tomorrow, along with this host manual and other reminders. So thank you all so much for being on the line tonight.
Allie, I have a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. That's okay.
This is Sue Snyder from Cecil County.
Hey, Sue. All right.
Hi. Yes, I was just wondering, I didn't catch anything about uniforms. We're just following the resource guide on the uniforms expectations?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. Mm-hmm. Great question. Thanks.
Just want to make sure. Yeah.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Okay. If there are no others, then I will go ahead and bid you all a good night. And again, thank you for being on tonight. And we will talk with you all soon via email. Thank you.
Thank you, Allie.